It's time to get started. Related stuff that's been going on, and so this is a tech agnostic class. This is about how to use a tool. So if you're wanting to debate the ethics or the stuff, that's not going to happen here. You can buy me a drink later, and I'm happy to do that. So this is Midjourneymanship, a beginner plus class. So we're going to jump into it. So there we go. So, about me, because it's a thing we have to do. So, I have 18 plus years of design experience, photography for 16 years. If you didn't know, I'm the conference headshot photographer, so if you haven't come in, please do. Videography for the last 4 years, and then AI art, which I prefer synthography, which is image synthesis. To me, that makes better sense. And as far as how much I've been able to do in this last year, or how much I played with this, here we go. 125,000 plus generations on MidJourney and another 50,000 plus on Stable Diffusion. So I played with it a little bit. And also, just a heads up, this is my first presentation, so any technical difficulties, they're my fault, but I apologize. And I apologize. Anyway, all right, so what we will be discussing are the settings, parameters, basic prompt craft, iterating, some additional tools, and then there will be a Q&A. One thing I did want to mention, so there's a lot of information. I'll be going through it somewhat quickly, but for each thing that I discuss, I do have examples on the following page, so no need to stress out. And then there's a QR code at the very end with the PDF, so you'll be able to download it and review. So, all right. So the settings, which by the way, in Discord, that's where you're going to type to get to it. We have the main default engine is MidJourney itself. Currently, it's on version 5.2. Broad capabilities, you can do anything from photo to illustration to painting to pencil sketch. Whereas the raw style is, it requires more input, more text input. So depending on how much control you want or how much of a MidJourney aesthetic you want, those are the two options for the main engine. And then Niji is their anime engine, and version 5 is the current version. They have the expressive style, cute style, and the scenic style. Niji 5 is the default anime engine. And sorry, first time using this tool. So you have more 3D render concepts there. Cute holds true to the name, it's very cute. And then scenic will prefer the scene over the subject. So, all right. So the prompt that I used is Dragon Punk Warrior. The aspect ratio is 2:3. And then I'll get to seeds in a little bit here, but I used the same seed for every prompt that I did, just to show consistency and show what the variety you're going to get out of all these tools. So here's what MidJourney did. Now the raw style, you can tell, is a little bit more photorealistic. It has a slightly different aesthetic, but still you can see the similarities there. Now moving on to Niji, you've got that right there. The expressive style is going to be, again, they hit names on the head, so it is more expressive. Very cute. And you'll notice for the scenic is the first one, well, second one other than cute is you've got the drag in the background, you've got the wide scene. So again, there's various options for these things. Now, the versions, like I said, 5.2 is the current version. I started using MidJourney at version 3, and that was very ethereal, abstract. You couldn't get, like faces looked weird. I mean, dragons were also odd, not to mention everything else. Some of them were great, some of them were creepy. Glad we're not in version 3 anymore. But it also does text very well. So if you're wanting to do text, you can go to version 3, 4, and 5 suck at it. Version 4, definitely increased realism, but if a lot of body elongation and all the images you saw that creeped you out about the fingers, that was version 4. And then version 5 is the current version, with them saying 6 should be coming out anywhere in the next few weeks and the next couple of months. We'll see what happens then. I'm glad it didn't come out last week. That would have sucked. So now, same prompt. We're going to go through each of those. So now this is version 3, like I said. Very ethereal, dreamlike, so it can be fun for fantasy stuff. This was version 4A. B, too many nostrils. Version C, you're starting to get better at that. Then you can see a major improvement in 5, and then there's 5.1. So, and obviously 5.2 is what we started with. So the great thing is you can play with these and find an aesthetic that you do like, and then go from there. All right. So brief rundown. And is audio fine? Like my voice is coming through? All right, cool. Aspect ratio. So like I said, I use 2 by 3, so it's width by length, and there's the parameter that you'll put at the end of the prompt, so handy reference. So for the same prompt, this is a 1 by 2, 9 by 16, and then again 2 by 3. And let's see here. Okay. Stylize. So default for stylize is 100. So if you enter a prompt in, it's automatically going to be add style or stylize 100. You can go up to 1,000. So for these ones, I have the 0 to 1,000 is the range that it'll allow you to input. And then they have weird, which is the way they describe it is odd, non-traditional aesthetics. Same thing, 0 to 1,000. Now, to go into the examples, style 0, 100, which is again our default, 200, 500, and you'll see as we go higher, like all things on the internet, we get cats. So now on the weird side, the default is 0. So again, we're starting off with that original dragon. Now it gets a little bit interesting, weirder, weirder still, and I don't know what that is. So now chaos is default for chaos is 0, and what chaos does is in that initial 4 grid that you get when you generate, when you put through a prompt, the variety that you're going to see between the images is what chaos does. And so again, 0 to 1,000, 0 is the default, and so at 0, again, there's our original dragon. Now we've got a little bit of variety. We're seeing different, background right there, and then I don't even know what that is, but you can have fun with it. And I think they got a Templar knight or something. Anyways, there we go. And then seed. I mentioned this. I used the same seed, which was a whole bunch of 3s. And this is the way that MidJourney, both MidJourney, Stable Diffusion, and the others, they use seeds as a method of randomization so that if you run the same prompt 10 times, you're not going to get the same thing. So that's how the variety is created. Now, there's a lot of technical stuff there. Can talk about it later if you'd like, after the class, but suffice it to say, the level of randomness. So you got, again, I'm just sticking with the threes to keep it simple on me while I was doing this. You got 6 threes over there, and back to our original 9 threes. So now, usually it's generated by, randomly. It's rare for you to go in, or for even me to go in and use a certain seed, except when I'm looking for what replacement words or image weights or text weights can do to the same exact image. So that's how I've spent a lot of time just trying to understand. I learned that there are apparently less than 5,000 adjectives in the English language. I've learned crap and anyway, so that's what I use when I'm trying to figure out how the engine sees or processes words. So we're at prompt craft, and that's where it's a /imagine, and that's when you put in prompt. So prompt influence, word influence. Whatever you put in up front will have the heaviest influence on your generations. So if you want something that's more photorealistic, you start with photo of, etc. If you want illustration, if you want cartoon, etc. So, and then also, if you've seen the long multi-paragraph things, it doesn't work really because the influence starts disappearing pretty quickly after 50 to 60 words, which I know is a lot, but I've seen people post stuff online and they've got like a short novel written out, and it really doesn't do much. So now punctuation. So we've got the comma. So you separate concept, subject, setting, style. So for example, Dragon Punk Warrior, comma, pencil sketch. The double colon, it does similarly, it separates concept, but gives each item the same weight. So instead of diminishing returns like you do with with the 50 to 60 words, now you've got each of these entities at the same weight. So that's how you would type it out. And then the double colon plus the number, it allows you to set the prompt weight. So Dragon Punk Warrior, excuse me, pencil sketch at half the weight or half the influence. So now into the examples. So this is what the pencil sketch would look like. Now, when the pencil sketch has the same influence, now you're starting to see humans in Dragon Punk armor. So you, and then once you drop it down, apparently rats, but you're starting to see color. And so again, there's a lot there. Thank you. So I think that was meant for me to. All right, so moving on. Again, I know there's a lot of information, so and I'm also trying to get through it so I can give more time for Q&A. So, all right, negative prompting. Now, for a lot of this, it's not, you're gonna get great things right out the bat, but there are times that you want something very specific, and because of the way the engines, or the MidJourney and Niji, they read things, like I said, the Dragon Punk Warrior, I didn't intend for a dragon initially, but it worked out great for this. So the way that you would, to remove unwanted elements, so you can either use the double colon with a negative weight, like we just saw with the positive weight, and then, or at the very tail end, you can say dash, dash, no, and then you can have as many elements as you want. Again, quick example, so Dragon Punk Warrior, no dragons. Similar thing, dragons minus 0.75. So 2 notes about this. One, no has a default weight of negative 0.5, and then overall prompt weight must be positive. Makes sense. So here's Dragon Punk Warrior, no dragons. So you can see not a single dragon coming through. At minus 0.33, you still got cats, I guess. And then at minus 0.75, you're getting back to humans in Dragonpunk armor. And I personally prefer using the negative weight over no, because like you can see, just like the aesthetics there and there are vastly different. And so again, that's a preference. Sometimes you can get good stuff, other times play with it. All right, image prompts. So if you have, like, you can do this with, you can take your own photo and then prompt it to create it in a different style, or use it if you're vain enough to make your character art look like yourself. Sorry, I meant to say, so it'll be the reference URL before the prompt itself, and then the image weight, which I'll talk about in a second here, is between 0.25 and 2, default being 1. So anyway, so influence generations with image references, generate more consistent characters. There's a lot more to be desired on that front. I know they're working on it, but it does help in the meanwhile to go about it this way. So like I said, method, image URL before the text prompt, and then you can dictate influence of the image prompts with dash dash image weight, and then the number between 0.25 and 2. So example, there we go, wearing gold armor. So what we're going to do is use that original dragon, excuse me. So there's the original dragon. I used the URL and put that in gold armor at 0.5. You can see the influence is very low. You got blue eyes. It's facing a different direction. It doesn't, have anything close to that armor style. Now pushing it up to 1.5, look in the same direction. You've got similar horn structure, similar appeal in the armor. So again, at 2, you'd see even more of that. But so that's image prompting. Excuse me. Permutations. Now this is fun if you're going to do. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time finessing the same prompt with slight differences, sometimes aspect ratios, sometimes styles. I actually did one experiment using the prompt artificial consciousness, and I ran through about 100 different art movements. So, but I had to type each one of those out, copy, paste, whatever. Of course, they released it after I did all that. So now you can insert variable within your prompt or even after, and I'll talk about it in a second. So for example, going back to the multi-prompt approach, so I want to see what pencil, ink, and charcoal sketches would be. So instead of 3 different prompts, I put that in the squiggly brackets because I don't know what the proper name of that is. And we got pencil sketch, ink sketch, and charcoal sketch. And again, we're keeping the seat same just to show what it does, how much a single change or a single word change influences the outcome. So there we go on that. All right, now comes to iterating. This is to get the kinds of images that you're seeing out there. Like, how are they doing this? It's a lot of reworking. So we're going to start with variations. They have 2 options now. Subtle, so it'll keep most of the stuff very, very similar. And sometimes, again, back in version 4 days, it was nice to try a variation to get rid of extra fingers or whatever. And the weirdest thing, by the way, if you got images that showed collarbone, sometimes there'd be a finger coming out of that. Again, creepy stuff. So, yeah, they've come a long way since then. And then they have the strong, so it's great for larger variety, and it'll keep the base elements fairly similar. So, and again, this is a beginner plus, so I'm assuming you know how to upscale an image that you like. So once you do that, then there'll be options below it to very subtle or very strong. And so again, with the same image, that's subtle. So like, again, they're very on the nose with their labeling, so which is great. So you can see they're all facing the same direction. The horn structure is fairly similar. Armor looks almost exactly the same. Now going into strong, obviously easiest to point out. Blue eyes facing the other way, but sometimes I'll usually, if I'm liking where the prompt's going, I'll usually do both a very subtle and very strong to see, see what I can get out of it. So, remixing. So making aesthetic or stylistic changes, change race, gender, wardrobe, or other characteristics once you have an image that you like. Now, example, ink sketch is what I want to add on top of the Dragon Punk Warrior. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. So, you'll go back to settings, you'll turn on remix mode, and then you can press on either very subtle or strong, and the prompt, your original prompt will reappear, and I'll show that in a second, and then you can edit it however you like. So when you hit remix, it'll pop this up. So you can add as much as you want, as little, and so adding female, now you've got, you know, two female faces kind of coming through, and you've got more like female aesthetic there, and then doing the ink sketch. Again, now, I made it a point to write this down, but you might think, why would I do that when I can use a seed? Well, most of us aren't thinking of using the same seed to generate the same images. So, and also to find out the seed once you get an image generated is very cumbersome. So this makes it easier to you know, play with it, jump around. And again, I'll sometimes do this and then rerun the prompt all over with, you know, to see what else it can do. So anyway, it's a tool. I use it less and less because they have better tools now, but it's here. So in painting, now they launched this fairly recently, but it is fantastic. So the purpose is, it can vary. You can fix anatomical issues, you can replace background, change wardrobe, even swap out subjects. And the way to do it is, again, you've got the upscaled image, and they have a third vary by region. So when you click on that, it'll pop up the image with two tools, a rectangular tool and a lasso tool for those that use Photoshop. So you go ahead, you select what you want it to replace. And so I was like, I like the face, want to see what the what variety of armor I can get out of it. So you can see what it does with that. So the face remains exactly the same. Now, sometimes what it can happen is, now the proportions on this one are off. So it might take a few more iterations to get there, but 3 good options, not bad way to go about it. Outpainting is also fairly recent, I think 3-ish months ago. But one of the things that had been an issue, definitely for version 4, but even to some extent now, is you get an image that you really like, but hair's cut off slightly, or, you know, like shoulders off, or cut off rather. And so with outpainting, you can expand the canvas outward. And then again, the method, upscale the desired image, and then there are a couple options there. It'll show you zoom out 1.5x, zoom out 2x, and then custom zoom out, which again, the range is between 1x and 2x. And then they have directional arrows, and so this is panning, so you can pan left, right, up, or down, and you can also have it square out the canvas. So if you're doing aspect ratio 2:3, but you're like, oh, I want this for social, I want it in the square format, and it's a simple way to do that. So here's 1.5 from that original dragon, so it's adding more space. Of course, there wasn't a whole lot for it to expand on, but for the example, it works. Now, I don't know, it's maybe started doing the tail, but then looked like a halo. And then using the pan down feature, so now it's expanding the torso downwards. The one thing one thing I did want to mention, so when you hit custom zoom, it actually brings up the prompt itself. So now there you can use remix to add on. So now if you want to expand outward in a scene like this, you could have the same prompt and describe the background, and again, it's going to be limited because it looks like, it was in a cave to begin with, but if you have different prompts, or different generations, you could expand outward. I did one, and I'll have to find it at some point, but I did one that was marble, like Greek gods and goddesses, like whatever, statue art, I want to say, wall art. Could you clarify what you're?
Yeah, the scale of the dragon thing. Like, can you make him
Oh, I see. Well, so yes, but in that you would go about just expanding outward, and so the more you expand, the smaller it becomes.
Go 2x out.
But you can keep doing it over and over and over.
Oh.
And that will give you interesting things as well, because at some point it runs out of things to show you. And so, yeah, so yes, you can, but now the other thing to note too is when you do the pan feature, so their image resolutions have changed over time, so I haven't even bothered looking at that. It is what it is. But by panning, you can actually increase either the width or the length, so you can get very large. Someone did, they posted in a Facebook group, someone did an experiment where they got it up to 50 megapixels wide, just kept going and going and going. So, but it slows down, and it's gonna eat up your fast hours, et cetera. So, yeah, but it's fun to try out. So, endless possibilities. You can mix and match in many different ways, and this is, again, just a handful. You can do stylized, plus weird, plus chaos, and so you can do any sort of combinations. Where's the thing? Okay, so remix plus engine swap, meaning you hit remix and it'll, say V 5.2 or whatever, and then you can say, hey, I want to see what this looks like in Niji, or if you're already in Niji and you're in expressive, you're like, I like this, but what would it look like in Qt? So remix plus image prompt. So going back to the remix thing, this is where it can be valuable. If you want to influence an image generation with, like I said, like your own image or another generation, so that's where a remix can be fun. But again, like the Very also would pull, or not Very, but Zoom would also pull up the same thing, so it's duplicate functionality, whatever. Anyways, so that's remix plus image prompt. Now, in painting plus remix is also great. Like, so you can specify eye color, for example, by entering a custom prompt. Out painting, let's expand the background. Let's see, I forget how much more I have. All right, additional tools. So these are pretty cool. Like, I forget when they launched these, but tools in your arsenal. So describe, either you can upload an image or one of your own generations, and it'll tell you what it sees in it. So aesthetic qualities, the subject matter, background, and then there's shorten, which if you're verbose as writers, I wouldn't imagine that, but it'll show you where the highest weights are, and also, yeah, it'll give you options to cut the prompts down. So, for example, again, upload to that original dragon, so I can't read that. But you can see it's giving you multiple options, digital artworks, armor in the shape of a dinosaur. Okay. So it's not always, I know they're using like I think one of the Google databases for this. I know they're developing one on their own, which I'm hoping will be a lot better. But just if you're stuck, if you're wanting to see what it's seeing within the image, there's a great way to go about it. And then shorten, like I said, it'll tell you, where the influence is. Obviously, I don't know what that is, but you get options to remove unnecessary words. Okay, and, oh, there we go. So we've got 12-ish minutes. And just a reminder, there's no debates, just, yes. So I,
Do you have QR code?
it's next, yeah. So, yeah.
Question about book cover type art, because I've been learning a lot from YouTube, but it's hard to find author-related stuff.
Sure.
And one of the most common things we'll run into is like trying to make artwork like your Dragon Pump guy, but with a lot more negative space for room for the title and author name and series and all that.
Yeah.
Do you just use the
Zoom out.
outpainting to do that? The zooming out thing? Does
Yeah.
it like fill in a background, like scenery and stuff?
So it does, and so if you're, like I said, like with that example, because it looked like it was in the cave, there's not much you could do, because it does lighting very well. It does motivated ambient lighting well, just out of the box. So now, if you're wanting to show darkness and dampness in the cave setting, you're just going to get that as you expand outward. But if you have a prompt where you can start with a particular outdoor backdrop or et cetera, then you can zoom out and hopefully get what you're looking for.
And it'll just fill in like a landscape or a sci-fi background or whatever,
Right,
if it's
and
part
so,
of the original picture.
so if you do specify what you're looking for, it will start doing that. Obviously, if you keep changing it, it's going to get weird. But the other thing too is what you could do is use the in-painting tool to rid some of the unnecessary things that. So you could try with the cave, for example. You could say it's like bluish gray sky, and then try like painting out the dark cavernous corners and go, yeah.
Is that how you zoom out like that stuff? Do you make covers?
I've done actually 3 book covers so far, and with AI I've done a lot more otherwise, but all 3 of them were very character specific for this author, and so it was a lot of iterating. I still needed to use Photoshop because there were components that and to be honest, the in-painting wasn't available, so I might have tried a little bit more with that if it had existed, but yeah, so hopefully that answers the question. Yep.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit more about the seed? I am assuming that's a pseudo-random sequence generator seed number for that. So if you use the same seed, I'm assuming it takes the prompt and it does the same process with the prompt every time you go through that iteration.
Yes, thank you. I had it in my notes. I glossed over it. So all of you, if you did the same exact prompt with the same seed, you're going to get the exact same image with maybe slight differences, but almost unnoticeable. So yeah.
So how do you specify or change the seed? And it might be intuitive. I've just never used the platform.
Right. So yeah. So just like any other parameter, you would do -- seed and the number, and so from between 0 and somewhere in the 4.3 billion range is where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I could specify the seed with any number, and it would just reuse that seed.
Yeah.
And then, but you say extracting the seed. How do you work backwards and extract an existing seed, or do we want to know?
It's fairly simple. It's more involved, is what.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
but what you can do is once you get an image generated, so it has to work with the four grid because it gets complicated otherwise. But basically, you hold it down and tell Discord to DM the image. And when you do, it'll give you the information, including the seed. And it applies to the first image only. So that's where it gets a little bit more chaotic, but that's the way to do it.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Try to keep it to one question, please.
Okay,
Sorry, also carrying on with that seed idea. So just to clarify, so if I apply a seed to every time I try to generate something, and then I get my image, because often I find out, I really like that, but it's just not quite right, and it's more than just like a change a little bit there.
Yeah.
But like I've been saying, oh, there should have been a dog in it, and I haven't put a dog in it. I want it exactly as it is, but I want to add a dog.
Yeah.
So if I just do the same thing and put seed and then plus dog,
So, yes, that's
it'll give
one
me
way to go
essentially
about
the
it.
same image.
Yeah, so it depends. Like, so when you're adding that, so I would recommend doing the in-painting method. And so just select the area that you would want the dog and prompt it for a dog, rather than going about the seed way. Because every new word, every new comma will influence what it does. So, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Thanks. Mine's a little out of left field, but
Okay.
do you use ChatGPT for prompt creation much, or?
So, not for prompt creation, but I did, so this was a while ago, but I decided to see what MidJourney would do with Heartbreak Hotel, because why not? And so, you know, it was this rundown, decrepit hotel, and I was like, okay. So I kept iterating, got it to more of a futuristic style, and then I was like, ooh, how would this look like if it was floating? So did that, and all of a sudden, it looked like a spaceship. So I jumped over to ChatGPT, asked it to describe what the physical appearance of an alien species called the Love Invaders that traveled the galaxy on heart-shaped spaceships, spreading the message of love would look like. And so it told me, you know, extrasensory perception, this and that. So I took that back into MidJourney and got some really cool stuff. So, yeah.
Thank you, this has been so informative. If I were to upload a photo of a family, would
Yep.
it be able to generate like similar outfits, or would it like take the characteristics of a male and a female or a child and confuse them?
So, so one, the image weight will play a big role there. So if you push it up to 2, which is the max, like that will keep that fairly on point. Now, I haven't played with this in a little while, but there was a time where, at least on the solo front, you could upload an image of yourself and an outfit, and it would mesh it fairly seamlessly. So, but you could always upload it and try in painting to change those out. So, yeah.
Any tips on like maintaining the same character throughout the next iterations?
Yes, but it's also, well, so again, using the image prompting works really well. The other one, and MidJourney does like a weekly class, I want to say, with Victor, someone or the other, but I watched through it a couple weeks ago, and he actually does a hell of a job walking through it, because you can create character sheets and then use in painting, remixing to replace faces or wardrobe. So, but it's very, very involved. And again, MidJourney has said that they're working on consistent characters, so maybe in version 6.
We have some questions from our online attendees. First one is from Kelly. She says, after we have an image that we are happy with, is there a way to output it with a high resolution, or is there another way to make it with a higher resolution?
Yeah, so MidJourney just launched, again, a few weeks ago maybe, their newest upscale tool for version 5. So you can upscale it 2x and up to 4x. Now, if you want to go beyond that, I purchased Gigapixel AI, and you can take images and upscale them up to at least 6x without degradation. And it also identifies whether it's standard photo, if it's line art, or lines, if it's CGI, and then applies upscaling methodology accordingly. So, yep.
And Nicole would like to know, are there any suggested sources for us newbies?
Other suggested sources? I mean, I honestly, yeah, I mean, maybe YouTube, but I will say, so if you have the time and patience for it, they do like 4-hour office hours every week. And so that can be a good place to learn at least some of the things that they're talking about. And then they do use, or they have partnered with a handful of artists that do lessons, both from Niji and for MidJourney separately. So, yeah, like that's where like the Victor whatever guy, that's where I learned more about the character consistency stuff. So, yeah.
Amy would like to know, how is MidJourney at generating 2 or more characters per prompt together, or would you just Photoshop them together?
No, it's great, and like you can get like, I wish I had some of these more accessible, but I did this whole series of images that were gladiator-esque, but with a lion, like anthropomorphic lion, and just for the hell of it, because you can. I had to take a selfie with a coliseum filled with people, so it does it really well. Yep. So, any other questions? Yep.
Who is that guy that you mentioned twice who runs that character creation sheet and
Victor,
stuff?
let me pull it up if I can. But if you go to MidJourney's Discord and go to their, I think it's their announcements, maybe not. It's somewhere in there. Okay, so is Victor Gnarly. I thought that was it, but I wasn't 100% sure. But yeah, so if you go to MidJourney's Discord server and go down to community updates, it's almost a weekly thing. Him and this other guy, Peter Moorbacher. I haven't checked out his class, but Victor Gnarly is pretty good at least the character consistency stuff. So, and he's a webcomic guy. So, yep.
Amy wants to know, if you want to get a similar character across multiple prompts, how would you do that?
So, again, like it's still fairly hard. You can do the image prompt using the reference image like we did with the dragon, and then also, so you could also in Paint and use a reference image. So crop down to the face that you want to reuse, and then use that as an image reference on just the squared out face, and yeah, that may work. I haven't tried that yet just because I haven't needed to, but in theory that should work.
So just as a reference point, there's a great Facebook group called AI Art for Authors,
Okay.
and everyone should go join it.
All right. So, yes.
Oh man, my brain just blanked. So
Well, you have 13 seconds, so.
to turn on the remix, you have to go to the settings.
Yep.
So then when you hit the variation, you'll get prompted and you could edit
Yeah,
just
and it can
improvise.
get annoying, so I only turn it on when I absolutely need it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's my time. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank you.